Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dr. Folu Olatona, an associate professor at the Department of Community Health and Primary Care, College of Medicine, University of Lagos. This afternoon, I'm presenting to you food consumption and food survey. It would be nice to introduce some concepts, and I want to start from food itself. Food is any substance which, when ingested, provides the necessary raw materials for the function and structure of life. In other words, the materials that are needed to build the body, the structure of the body, and for all the functions that the systems perform to be done. Food is the material needed. It's like the fuel that is needed by all the organs and the systems to be able to carry out their function. Nutrition is the science of food. So the science, the study, the science of food, their actions, interactions, and how they affect, how the food affects health, how some foods cause diseases. This science is what is referred to as nutrition. So when nutrition is not in the right shape, then we call it malnutrition. That's a situation where there's deficient or excess intake of nutrients in relation to the requirements. That is called malnutrition. And this problem is universal. It's all over the world. But the undernutrition part, that's when there is deficiency, is more common in Asia and Africa. The term malnutrition is a spectrum that ranges from severe undernutrition to moderate, mild undernutrition, then normal nutritional status. And on the right side of the spectrum, there is overweight, obesity, and morbid obesity at the very extreme. Please note that in developing countries like Nigeria, undernutrition is the most important type of malnutrition at this time. The rate of overweight and obesity is increasing, but prevalence of undernutrition is still higher. What are the causes of undernutrition? Why do people consume less or find themselves in a situation where they are undernourished, even if they are consuming enough? There are many reasons. And these reasons are associated with level of development of a country. That's why in developing countries, undernutrition is more compared to the developed countries. And on the other hand, in developed countries, overnutrition and obesity is more prevalent. So in this part of the world, that's the developing countries, we have multiple socioeconomic problems with food production. We produce less than we need. Problem with food distribution is not properly, evenly, or equitably distributed. Some actually have more than enough and waste them, while others don't even have enough to eat. We also have problems with food preservation and processing because we have not overcome the problem of energy. So the food gets wasted during the planting, during the harvest season. Ignorance and lack of education, especially mothers' education, are also prevalent, just like poverty. There is insufficient household food security, inadequate dietary intake. There is infection because of an unhealthy environment and large families. Many people still give birth to more than 4 children. Chronic illnesses also play a role in undernutrition. In this situation, it's the people eat adequate amount of food, they consume adequate amount, but the food gets wasted through metabolism. There's also food restriction and food taboos. This usually affects women, pregnant women, and unfortunately, the kinds of foods that are restricted are protein-rich foods, which are important for the immunity of the woman and the baby she carries. Now, let's talk about national food production. We have identified that production is one of our challenges. We're not producing enough. Why are we not producing enough? There's decline in production in developing countries because many people seek the white-collar job. Even those who are not well educated, they prefer to go to the cities and compete for office jobs rather than go to the farm and plant food, produce food. So the results, only a fraction of the required food is produced. So let's master the reasons and be able to apply them when needed. I think there's a lot of rural-urban migration, especially of young people who are the able-bodied, strong men who should be farming. There is disappearance of arable lands because many people are building, there's a lot of construction work, and the land that should be used for agriculture, especially in the cities, are being built up. Despite all this, we still have high fertility rates, high population growth, and that means the little food that is produced is being competed for by many people. Another challenge we identified at the beginning of the lecture is food preservation. Poor food preservation. There's severe losses in food produced by farmers due to poor storage, processing, and preservation. We don't have enough facilities and technology to store the food, process them, and preserve them. So you will notice that food shortages are more common during the planting season because during the harvest season, a lot would have been wasted and they are not properly stored. So the ones that are available would have been exhausted over time. By the time farmers reach the planting season, they just have enough. They have just enough to plant for the next season, and they don't have enough to go around people for consumption. Perishable foods cannot be preserved and stored for long periods. That's why if modern technology is not applied, these foods are sold at little prices, low prices during harvest season and wasted. Then there's scarcity during planting season. And those that are even stored, there might be a lot of changes in the composition of the food and their nutrients if they are not stored properly. So they're not at the optimal level for consumption. As physicians or physicians in training, what can we do to enhance better nutrition of the people? We can give advice on schemes that can improve food production at national and family levels. We can encourage consumption of a wide variety of foods, promote family planning and nutrition education. What can the government do to solve these problems we have identified today? Well, government is in charge of policy making, and policy affects a lot of things, including food and nutrition. So policies can be made that will favor food production and distribution. This has to be intentional because if the policies favor cash crops as against food crops, people will divert into planting cash crops because they want to make a lot of money, and we will still not have enough food to eat, though we might be claiming that we have many farmers. Use of fertilizers, irrigation methods, pesticides, and herbicides in fish farming can also increase the production rate. So if the pests and the herbs are destroyed and the plants and animals do well, then we can harvest more of them. Improved methods of food storage. Imagine if the government would build silos, storage places, warehouses, and people can rent at an affordable price. They may be able to store food better. It's easier to achieve such as a group or as a community than as individuals, because many individuals cannot even afford the cost of such storage. Government can also support family planning organizations who are passionate about controlling the population through family planning. And that way we achieve higher rate of contraceptives and family planning. Now let's talk about food consumption survey. What does it mean? So when we talk about food consumption survey, it means that we want to find out the pattern of consumption of food amongst the population. So we make attempt to record their diet. Diet is the combination of food that is eaten habitually. That's the meaning of diet, combination of food that is eaten habitually. So when you find out what people eat habitually, that's their diet. For example, in Nigeria, rice is very common. So some would eat rice as jollof rice, some as fried rice, white rice, rice and beans. When you go to restaurants, there's hardly anywhere you get to and you will not see rice. If you don't see local or natural or whole grain rice, which is popularly known as ofada, you would see the polished rice. In fact, now in some restaurants, you have basmati rice and joke rice, all kinds of rice men and dishes. But if you go to South Africa, the staple food is more of corn, and they have a lot of corn-based meals. So you need to do a research or a survey to find out the pattern of food consumption. But please don't think of adults alone. Start from infants. So what's the pattern of breastfeeding? Pattern of feeding infants and young children? Family food budget can also give us a picture of the pattern of food. If the budget is very lean, then we know that it's not likely that such a family will consume adequate amount of protein-rich foods because they are quite more expensive. Mother's knowledge of food sources and preparation is also important because sometimes the resources may be available, but if mother's knowledge or the knowledge of the caregiver, the person who prepares food, is low, then problems can result. The person may just be giving rice every day and forget that there are other foods that have other nutrients. There's no single food that contains all the nutrients needed. Sometimes we conduct food consumption survey to gain insights into not just the pattern, but to be able to know the problem, to predict the problem in the community. For example, if there is a community where the staple food is gari and everybody just keeps taking gari and little or no animal foods, that may indicate undernutrition or protein energy undernutrition for children or micronutrient deficiency if they don't take enough fruits and vegetables and yet very low on animal food. There's likely to be micronutrient deficiency. And then another purpose of such survey may be to design nutrition education program to check the progress and impact and plan future actions. So that means if you have a plan for nutrition intervention, you can't just go to the community and start giving them whatever the intervention is, whether education or supplements or program or training, whatever the intervention is. You cannot jump into it. You need to conduct a survey, food consumption survey, and you also need more survey in the middle of the program to check the progress, to check if there's any impact. And after this, the nutrition intervention program is conducted, you want to evaluate and plan for future action. So all these steps require food consumption survey. Can somebody please unmute and tell us the difference between monitoring and evaluation? Somebody unmute, tell us the difference between monitoring and evaluation. Am I speaking to ghosts or human being?
Good morning. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, I am there. I can hear you.
Oh, okay. My name is Sawanu. So the difference between monitoring and I believe that monitoring refers to the process and evaluation refers to the end process, to the end product. So monitoring has to do with ensuring that all the steps of the process are followed and they are followed to the best that they can be. While evaluation involves evaluating the whole system and the end product to see whether it is achieving.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So just a little addition that you can say that as monitoring checks the process, evaluation checks the impact, checks the end product, checks the impact. Thank you. So what are the methods of dietary survey? What are the methods used for food consumption or dietary survey? So first, we use food frequency questionnaire, and this can be used for a large number of people within a short time because it just involves asking questions on different foods. You take each food group and ask questions on each food. This is an example of food frequency questionnaire. So I can start with the cereal or grain groups and ask you, how many times do you eat rice in a week? I know that for most of you, the answer is 7 days a week. So you you write 7. I go further and ask you how many times a day. So I know the answer for most of you is more than once a day. So if you see the rightmost column, the answer there is yes, more than once a day. But if I ask you if you eat corn, not everybody eats corn or maize. So you might say less than once a week. Or if I ask you if you eat old-fashioned oats, might be less than once a week. You don't like oats, you rather take custard, okay? Or you prefer to take oats 2 times a week. You just write 2, and that's how to complete food frequency question. The second one is 24 hours diet recall. We assess people's food consumption or dietary pattern through 24 hours diet recall. So in 24 hours diet recall, we form a pro forma, like a form. We write the day of the week and give the person enough explanation that we want to take everything he or she eats or drinks or has eaten or drunk between yesterday morning and this morning. That's the pattern. That's the best way to pick it. We call it 24 hours, but it doesn't mean that if you are reaching someone's house by 5 p.m., then you'll be asking what the person consumes between 5 p.m. of yesterday and today. It might be confusing because you are conducting a survey and it's better to put everybody on the same plane. So start everybody, whether you reach the house at 8 a.m. or you reach the house at 8 p.m., start everybody with what did you eat and drink on waking up yesterday morning. Notice that I did not ask for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. I just asked for all the foods taken on waking up in the morning, and then keep asking till the end of the day. And the end of the day is not dinner. You need to ask what other foods did the person eat or any drink taken in the night. Maybe the person woke up in the night, couldn't sleep, and went to eat bread. Always ask what the person took with the food. Somebody says, I ate rice, and you just write rice. It's not enough. Rice and what? What did you eat with the rice? What drink did you take? You need to ask. Observe food consumption is another method, and this food consumption is very interesting. You inform the people before going to their rooms, just like 24 hours ago, you have to inform the people ahead. So you inform the people ahead and they tell you of their meal time. So you go there during the meal time, you weigh the food. You can weigh the raw foods they're about to cook, or you weigh the foods they have already cooked. You just must go at about meal time so that you are getting the exact amount that they eat. So the team would weigh all the foods that is to be cooked or eaten, as well as the one that is wasted or discarded. We just want to know how much they prepare, then how much they eat. So for observed food consumption, the ratio can be 1 to 21 days, but usually 7 days. This is not very acceptable to people because we are intruding into their privacy. The data collected has to be translated into main intake for each nutrient. So you need to calculate the weight equivalent of each food item and then use a diet software or food composition table to convert the food into nutrient components. So it's not something that can be completed on the field. After you've captured the amount of food, maybe you went to the field with a bowl, a cup, different sizes of spoons, and you're able to estimate the amounts that the person or the household consumed. Then you come to your desktop and you input that amount, and the total diet assessment software gives you the nutrients in each in 100 grams of each food item. So then you add up the nutrient. Let's assume that you have 21 grams of protein from rice, 30 from beans, another 21 from fish. Then you add all the ones from different foods together, and that gives you total amount of protein taken between yesterday and today. You compare the mean nutrient intake to standards expected for age and sex and determine if person or the people are okay or there is a nutritional problem. So you notice that it's not just enough to calculate the nutrient intake. You have to add up for all the nutrients from all the foods taken within the 24 hours. And then you need to compare with standards because there are standards. For example, as a lady, you need 0.8 grams of protein per kg. So if you weigh 60 kg, then that means the protein needed in a day will be about 48 grams. So if the protein, the total protein taken is just 40, then that lady is not taking enough. And in this situation, you are dealing with a community, not just one person. And you are able to diagnose that in this community, people take high carbohydrate food and they're too low on protein foods. That can be a conclusion. And that can be a step to solution. Maybe after finding out such, then we are able to get a donor to donate funds to assist these people, maybe to have poultry farm, to raise chicken and turkey to be able to eat animal food, or to plant beans and eat more beans to get more protein. So I want to conclude on this first topic, food consumption. Malnutrition is a wide spectrum of problems which ranges from severe undernutrition to morbid obesity. Undernutrition causes many other problems, including growth retardation, poor cognitive development, and poor productivity. Therefore, we need to pay more attention to this problem in Nigeria and other developing countries, since we're struggling with more higher prevalence of undernutrition compared to overweight and obesity. However, it's important to note that as overweight and obesity creeps into our society, there's also a corresponding increase in the prevalence of non-communicable diseases, including hypertension, diabetes, cancer, and others. So it's not a small problem. We have to deal with overweight and obesity as well, because these diseases are they are wasting. They waste energy in the body and they waste resources. Let me just limit it to that, because it's not all of them that have the effect of diabetes. But they need multi-sectoral approach to reduce its prevalence. So individuals, households, communities, government, everyone, health workers, we all have to put our heads and hands together to reduce the rate of malnutrition. Thank you. Questions?
Good evening, ma. Thank